Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 11th meeting of the St. Mary's County Planning Commission. These will make it better. Our meeting is being recorded for the public record. Any comments made by anyone present or either on WebEx or telephone must be recorded as part of the record. Therefore, if you have anything to say, you must come up to one of the microphones provided, or when giving testimony online or telephone, you must give us your name followed by your statement. Your comments cannot be recorded and placed in the record unless they are done in this fashion. You are to direct your statements, questions, and responses to the board only, and we'll direct them to the appropriate person for an answer. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Anyone testifying or asking questions during our public hearings will be required to take an oath, and we thank you for your cooperation. On tonight's agenda, let's see. After review and approval of the minutes for our December 14th, 2020 meeting, our first item will be an election of officers, followed by 2 public hearings. Our first public hearing is number 20-142-002 for the Kimberly Cossack exception to the intrafamily transfer, followed by our second public hearing, which is number 20-245-002 for the Real Food Studio growth allocation, followed by any new news or discussion and adjournment. At this time, I'll introduce the board members and their staff, starting with Mr. Evans on the end.
Merle Evans.
Howard Thompson.
Patty Robrecht.
Kim Summers.
And we'd like to welcome Ms. Kim Summers. She's our new member of our Board of Planning Commission. Also with us this evening is Joe Fazekas and B.J. Hall are our other members. From Land Use and Growth Management, we have their director, Mr. Bill Hunt, and we have our planner is Brandy Glenn. Our video media producer tonight is Amy Carter, and with Sarah Miller also in there. From our county attorney's office, we have Mr. Neil Murphy is with us this evening. And let's see, from the Department of Public Works and Transportation, Mr. John Dietrich, I believe I saw his name was up there. And I'm just seeing there's a list of whoever else. Okay. Also, our applicants are here, and we'll introduce them as their cases come up. Okay, at this time, we'll do the approval of minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review the December 14th minutes?
Yes.
Is there any corrections or deletions need to be taken care of? Okay, do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the Planning Commission on December 14th, 2020.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second by Mr. Evans. I'll call that in a roll call vote then for those minutes. Merle Evans.
Aye.
Joe Van Kirk.
Aye.
Patty Robrecht.
Aye.
Joe Fazekas.
Aye.
Okay. B.J. Hall. Okay. Ms. Summers, you weren't here for that, and I also vote for that. We'll get you on the next one. Okay. Our first case of the evening. Let's see. Oh, before we start that, we have to have an election of officers. If anybody's had a chance to review that, if anybody would like to make a suggestion or nominate, this would be for chairman.
I would like to nominate Howard Thompson for chairman of the Planning Commission.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote on that nomination. All in favor of the nomination for Howard Thompson for chairman? I guess I'll go down to roll call. Merle Evans.
Aye.
Joe Van Kirk.
Aye.
Patty Robrecht.
Aye.
Joe Fazekas.
Aye.
B.J. Hall.
Aye.
Kim Summers.
Aye.
Okay. And I'll vote for myself. Okay, that sounds good.
Now that you've done all that, I
Yeah.
think we're supposed to make a motion. And it had to be seconded.
We didn't have a second, I don't think, on that.
All right, well, we're going to do it again.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Patty Roebuck made it, then that was your motion that you,
I nominated
You
you,
made-
and now I'll make a motion.
now we'll make a motion. We want this to be proper. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second that.
Was that Mr. Fazekas out there?
That's it.
We're going to give it to you.
Correct.
We're going to give it to you, Mr. Fazekas. Okay. Since we've already done the tally, we'll just do that. Everybody in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any noes? Okay, we'll do it the proper way this time.
Okay.
Does anybody have a nomination for co-chair?
I would like to nominate Joe Van Kirk as co-chair of the Planning Commission.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the nomination?
I make a motion that we accept the nomination for Joe Van Kirk as co-chair of the Planning Commission.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second from Mr. Evans. Okay. I'll do the roll call on this one. Merle Evans,
Aye.
Joe Van Kirk, Patty Roebuck,
Aye.
Joe Fazekas,
Aye.
BJ Hall,
Aye.
Kim Summers,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Congratulations, Mr. Van Kirk, and thank you all
Thank
for
you,
your,
Chairman. Thanks,
thank you all
everybody.
thank you for your vote of confidence. We'll have a fun year. Okay. First case this evening. Is, let's see, number 20-142-00002 for the Kimberly Cossack intrafamily conveyance, exception from an intrafamily conveyance. Owner is Kimberly Diane Cossack. Action requested is a review of a request from intrafamily conveyance requirements pursuant to Section 41.6.4 of the St. Mary's County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. And her agent this evening, and will be speaking, both her and I believe it's Mr. Longmore. Okay. Before we get started, anybody that will be speaking and have any comments either in here or out in WebEx, at this time, would you raise your right hand so I can swear you in? Do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Okay. Okay. I read your lips, Ms. Cossack. Okay,
Kozak.
Cossack. Thank you for the correction there. Okay. Brandy, would you like to start
Yep,
for staff?
give me 1 second. Okay. Agenda item 1 is the Kozak exception from interfamily conveyance 20-142-00002. The applicant is requesting an exception from the interfamily conveyance requirements of Section 41.6.4 of the St. Mary's County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. The site is located at 36898 Bushwood Wharf Road. The land use is rural preservation. And the zoning is rural preservation district with a resource conservation area overlay. The rural preservation districts are intended to foster agricultural, forestry, mineral resource extraction, and aquaculture uses and protect the land base necessary to support these activities. Low-density residential development in this type of district is permitted, subject to performance standards and maintain the rural character of the district in recognition of the fact that a full range of public facilities is not provided or planned. The public notice for the Planning Commission public hearing was published in the Enterprise on December 25th, 2020, and January 1st, 2021. The property has been posted in accordance with CZO requirements, Section 21.3.3. Certified mail receipts have been received and have been entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit 1. The agenda was posted on the website January 5th, 2021. The project was reviewed at the TEC meeting held on September 23rd, 2020. Lots created under Sections 41.6.4 may not be conveyed subsequently to any person other than a member of the owner's immediate family, except upon approval of the request for exception filed in the Department of Land Use and Growth Management that, at a minimum, includes the following assurances and information. A, the lot was created as part of a bona fide intrafamily transfer and not with the intent of subdividing the original parcel of land for purposes of ultimate commercial sale, and B, a description of the change in circumstances that has occurred since the bona fide intrafamily original transfer was made is not inconsistent with the critical area program and warrants an exception. Per Section 41, sorry, let me catch up there. Per Section 41.6.4.A.4 of the ordinance, the exception shall be submitted to the planning director for referral to the TEC, which shall make a finding whether the exception is warranted. Exceptions hereunder may be granted only by the Planning Commission after consideration of the report of the TEC. To grant an exception, the Planning Commission must find that the lot was originally created as part of a bona fide intrafamily transfer and that a legitimate change of circumstance has occurred and warranting the requested exception. The 1990 CZO described the same process to request the exception to the intrafamily transfer. The declaration of restrictive covenants placing the intrafamily transfer restriction on this property was made September 18th, 1992. The request tonight is only for 36898 Bushwood Wharf Road, but information on the other two properties should be acknowledged because they were all included in the restrictive covenants of 1992. Here's a slide of the three properties. 36844 Bushwood Wharf Road was created through the intrafamily transfer. The restriction was removed through the reliance on a letter from Phil Shire. The letter is included in the material provided by the applicant of the current request, which is for 36898 Bushwood Wharf Road. 36898 Bushwood Wharf Road was created through the intrafamily transfer. The applicant will be presenting the request tonight. 36850 Bushwood Wharf Road was created through the intrafamily transfer. That case to remove the intrafamily transfer is scheduled for the February 8th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. This concludes the staff report and is entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit 2. Representing the applicant is Attorney Chris Longmore. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay. Do any of the board members have questions of staff at this time?
Brian, I have a quick question. I'm not sure if it's you or Mr. Hunt.
Sure.
It looks like all three of these properties that you referenced was created via the intra-family transfer.
So the interfamily transfer covenant didn't create the properties, but it put that restriction on all three of those properties.
You said it didn't?
So why would it have put them restrictions on the other two properties?
Ms. Glenn, I hate to interrupt, but we're not hearing the questions that are being addressed to you. I didn't hear Mr. I think it was Mr. Van Kirk that had asked, but.
Let me try to say that again, a little closer to the mic, Mr. Longmore. Of the
Thank you. I can hear you now. Thank
Okay,
you.
sorry about that. Of this property, 36898, and it was referenced in here in the staff report and in the multiple things that we have, 36844 and 36850. If they're all under the intrafamily transfer covenants, I would assume all three of these had to be created because of that. Is that how that works? I think what I'm confused at is, I know this is only for 36898. If you look at the rules for the intrafamily covenants, this property, I think it goes back, it was 7.5 acres or something. Not this one, but it originated from a 7.5 acre.
The parent parcel.
The parent parcel. So in the language in the comprehensive zoning ordinance, if the property is between 7 and 12 acres, you can only have 2 anyway. So I don't understand how we got to 3, first of all, and then unless something changed or I'm not looking at it correctly, I don't see how the former director, Mr. Shire, would have had the authority to remove the restrictions on the other 2. It clearly states in there that the request is made to the Director of Land Use and Growth Management, who forwards it to the TEC. They see if the exception is warranted, and then it's got to come to us. So I guess my first question, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself on where because I had a list of questions. I didn't quite see how all that transpired if the 1990 ordinance, and then these came after that. So I don't know if I'm a little out of order what I'm asking. How did 3 happen, first of all, out of a parent parcel of 7.56 acres? How was the exception lifted? It doesn't look like that was a proper procedure. So I guess that was my couple questions here.
Mr. Van Kirk, I'm with you on both of those. I understand your statements and your question. We had the same questions at the staff level. We presented the case as it was requested by Mr. Longmore representing the applicant.
Sure.
We did the research that we could. Ms. Glenn did find the restrictive covenant. I agree that the ordinance does say that only two lots could be transferred based on the acreage of the parent parcel. I hope I'm using that term correctly. Technically sometimes that definition changes, but that from the parcel that they were subdivided. I don't know how they got to be 3. Mr. Longmore may have some insight into that, but we don't. And then as far as the first transfer that was done by the letter from Mr. Shire, the letter that's included in your packet is all the information that we have. The 2 paragraphs that are there in the letter are all we know about that.
So that was the only thing on file? No
Correct.
request from an applicant, just that letter?
That's all we found, yes, sir.
It just seems to be highly subjective of if that was requested, as I'm assuming it was. He didn't just pull out a public record out of 100,000 and say, oh, let's just review this one public record. It just seems highly skeptical of what's transpired up to here. Now, I understand that's not Ms. Kosak's problem, but it does throw all this into question for me, just of what I've read. So I don't have some other questions. I was just kind of asking staff if I was reading things right of how we initially got to 3, how the exception was given in the first place. And you answered that, and I certainly appreciate that.
That's the way staff read it too, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Bill, I have a question. In that, what happened in the past is not relevant, is it?
That would be something for the legal people to look into.
Because that's what I kept focusing on, because I got so confused. I just went, I think we have to stick with what's in front of us and the request in front of us, which doesn't have, I don't think, anything to do with the other two, even though it's confusing.
The only reason I brought that up is because it references in the letter from Mr. Longmore, the reason they're asking for this is kind of because the other two were given the exception. So it kind of references this of how I read it
There, you are right.
to that. So I understand it's two separate cases, and I'm sure Mr. Longmore or Ms. Kosak will elaborate more on that stuff as we go. But that was just an initial question that I had for staff.
Okay, were there any other questions of staff? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Longmore, are you going to be doing the speaking, or is Ms. Kozak going to be doing that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be doing the majority of the speaking, but Ms. Kozak can confirm any factual representations I make. It'd be difficult to question her because we're hearing each other's echoes. So if the board will allow me to do that, then she can confirm any of the factual statements. But may I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, please.
Again, I believe we'll be able to address at least some of the questions raised by Mr. Van Kirk. And what I'd like to do, if I'm allowed, is share my screen with the PowerPoint presentation we'd prepared. I'm trying to do that right now. And can you all see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So I thought it'd be good to start with a little bit of the history of these properties. I will say that I noticed before I started speaking that Mr. Terry Pogue was logged in tonight. I am not representing him, but he does have some relation to this case. So I don't know if he intends to testify or have any questions. I just saw him on WebEx. But I'll begin with the PowerPoint. And I think it may be best to start in this fashion, that the parcel that we're here speaking tonight about is what's referred to on the latest plat and records as adjusted parcel 71. Mr. Robert Steele Pogue essentially owned different properties that were next to each other or neighboring each other. So I think that's why there's some confusion on the number of lots that are subject to these restrictions. So the original lot 71, Mr. Robert Steele Pogue obtained his original interest in 1962. It is from a deed recorded in land records at Liber 101, folio 431. And that was originally he owned it with a prior wife, and he eventually added his second wife. And that was done in March 17th of 1997. And I have the deed reference there in the PowerPoint. I'm happy to provide copies if anybody needs to see. I think this is more background and not necessarily required to demonstrate what I'll show you. So, and then what happened was Mr. Pogue and his wife, Diane Pogue, his second wife, also received some additional property from his mother, Lucy Long Pogue, on December 30th, 1998. Now, this was neighboring property near the other property that I just mentioned. It was from the second acreage of park property that he received that he conveyed part of it to Terry Pogue. Now that is the property that the covenants relate to. And those are the covenants that Ms. Glenn spoke of and Mr. Hunt, both of them spoke of, and those were dated September 18th, 1992. And that's where the covenants come from that we're discussing tonight. Now, those covenants, if you read them, and they're in the record and attached to the staff report, give you the attachment number. Those are attachment number 5 to the staff report. If you read they're only 2 pages long. It's clear from those covenants that those only affected 2 parcels of property. It began with 7.56 acres. And it referenced that part of the property had been paid to Terry Pogue from Robert Steele Pogue. So at that point in time in 1992, we believe that these restrictions only related to those 2 properties. And that did not include the original parcel 71. Now, what happened next is that in 2008, a boundary line adjustment plat was prepared, and it was recorded in, and I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing my PowerPoint, May 23rd of 2008. This created the lot that we're looking at tonight, adjusted parcel 71. Now, this included original parcel 71, which we do not believe was subject to these covenants. But the boundary line adjustment plat actually added some property to parcel 71 that was subject to these covenants. So originally, my client would not have had to be here if the boundary line adjustment plat had not been done. But because it was done and part of the property is subject to these covenants, a waiver is now needed from the Planning Commission to convey it to another part. Now, I know there's a lot there. To make it a little clearer, this is the front page of the boundary line adjustment plat with the notes. And this is the second page that shows all essentially 4 parcels that are now affected by these covenants. Now, and can you all see my cursor? I don't know that you can.
No. Oh.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So if we begin on the far right side, you can see adjusted parcel 71. And if you look at this blow up of it, you can see the old lot lines of what the original parcel 71 looked like. It was smaller, and it did not include that existing garage within it. The parcel 11 next door, you can see, is another parcel that the county has now determined is subject to these covenants. And we believe that, too, is only subject to the covenants because of this boundary line adjustment plat that added some of the property that was subject to the covenants to parcel 11. The remainder of the property on this plat, which is adjusted parcel 259, tract 1, and adjusted parcel 259, tract 2. We believe those are the ones that were originally subject to the covenant. But when this boundary line adjustment plat was done, it essentially attached to the other 2 lots. So when the family conveyance restrictions were originally done, it appears they were properly done in that you had a parcel that was over 7 acres and it was only divided into 2 lots. But these 2 smaller lots, some acreage was added to them after that. That acreage was subject to these restrictions. This boundary line adjustment plat was approved by the county, including the Department of Land Use and Growth Management. and the health department, as you can see by the signatures on the bottom of the plat.
Chris, let me ask you a question. I don't mean to cut you off.
Sure.
All of our stuff that we're looking at shows 5-digit addresses, and you're speaking parcel 71, parcel 11, parcel 259. Could you relevate that to what we're seeing in the staff report? Because I'm not sure,
Sure.
did the BLAP that you're discussing create a whole new lot, or was it just a boundary line adjustment between two other properties to make one bigger, or did it create another lot?
As I understand it, and looking at the plat, there were 4 different parcels before the plat was done, and there remained 4 parcels after the plat.
Okay.
The only thing the plat did was adjust the boundary lines to various parcels. Did that answer your question?
Yes, so adjusted parcel 71 is 36898. The subject property tonight.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I was pulling up
That's
the
okay.
staff presentation on my iPad so I could confirm. Adjusted parcel 71 at the bottom right-hand corner of this plat is 36898.
36898.
Bushwood Wharf Road.
So what you said a couple minutes ago, to your understanding, and I'm sure it's correct, if they hadn't have done a BLAP, they off of a parcel that was already under the intrafamily transfer, they wouldn't be here tonight. Is that correct?
That is the conclusion I've reached by looking at the title documents that I've been able to review.
Okay.
Because those original covenants only reference 2 parcels. And what is now, what was originally parcel 71 has a different chain of title. Mr. Robert Steele Pogue obtained what was originally his residence much earlier than he got a lot of this other property.
Let me ask you one more question before I let you go, and I apologize for interrupting. How much was added when they did the boundary line adjustment? Do you have any idea? Was it a 20-foot strip so somebody could gain access? Was it a double the size of the lot? What was the purpose of the BLAP?
Again, I'm not sure what the purpose was, but I can, from the boundary line adjustment plat itself, there is an adjustment table that is on my screen right now, just below the vicinity map. And it looks like the original recorded area of parcel 71 was half an acre, 0.50 acres. And once the BLAP was done, the adjusted area was 1.18 acres.
Okay, thank you.
So it was more than double in square footage or acreage.
Yeah, added 0.6.
Okay, thank you very much. And I apologize for interrupting again.
No, I appreciate it. There's a lot of moving parts. I want to make sure I'm being clear. So the adjusted parcel 71, again, to make sure I answered your first question, is 36898. The property immediately to the left of that, adjusted parcel 11, is the 36850 Bushwood Wharf Road. And that is the other one that I believe is similarly situated to this property, and which will be before you, I believe, in about a month or month and a half. I'm representing Ms. Kozak's neighbor in that one as well. So again, this was another just blown up picture to show you the lot we're talking about. Now, to describe this a little bit more about how we got here with Ms. Kosak, at the time the boundary line adjustment plat was done in 2008, Robert Steele Pogue and Diane L. Pogue were the owner of that property. After that, they recorded what's called a life estate deed, which said that Diane Pogue's daughter, and it's Robert Steele Pogue's stepdaughter, which is my client Kimberly Kosak, would be conveyed that property after both Mr. and Mrs. Pogue passed away. That deed is in the record as attachment. It's one of the attachment 6. There's 2 deeds that are part of attachment 6. It's one of those 2 deeds. After that deed was recorded, Mr. Pogue passed away on August 22nd, 2015, and Diane Pogue passed away on October 2nd, 2016. And that is how Ms. Kosak became the sole owner of the property. By operation of law, when you have a life estate deed, the person that is named as what's called the remainderment becomes the owner of the property without the need for any type of estate or probate or new deed. So that is how Ms. Kosak is here as the owner of the property tonight. So she did not own the property when the 2 other parcels had the restrictions placed on them. And she did not own the property when the boundary line adjustment plat was done. She owns it because her stepfather and mother have both passed away. And she received the conveyance after that. Now, the reason we're here for the request is, and this is what Ms. Kosak can also confirm and add anything that either I misspeak or that I'm not complete in, is that Ms. Kosak now does desire to sell this property. She knows of no relatives within the family that originally created the restrictions that wish to purchase it. She has somebody that has a contract to purchase the property. And that has been put on hold while she's applied for this restriction to be relieved. She is very lucky that the buyer has been willing to stick around at this point. And they are still willing to purchase the property. Now, as to the change in circumstances that we believe would warrant this, is that this property has become a financial burden to Ms. Kosak. There are costly repairs needed, the most notable of which is that the septic needs to be replaced. She has been informed about that, and the new purchaser is aware of it and willing to purchase the property knowing that at the time of purchase. Since Ms. Kosak received this property by way of the life estate deed, she has also had 2 separate cuts in her pay that has burdened her financially in addition to the repairs that are needed for the property. Ms. Kosak also has a medical condition that will require multiple procedures. Her plan, if you grant this tonight, is to sell this property, find a shorter term rental here in the area, allow her to have those procedures performed here by the doctor she has been seeing, and upon conclusion of those procedures, she intends to move to and live with some of her family members that are out of state. I believe that is Tennessee, but you can correct me if I have a mistake. So those are essentially the changes in circumstances that we believe would warrant removing this restriction from her lot. And we would ask that you give special consideration to the fact that really this house was not subject to the family conveyance restrictions in the beginning. Now, a word as to that letter that is in the other deed. That is not the sole reason that we think you should grant a request. And it may not be something you consider at all. We did want to make the Planning Commission aware that a prior director had deemed that the restriction did not apply to one of the other properties that it was subject to. But we believe that we can stand separate from that based on the fact that this restriction was originally put into place in 1992. It has remained in the Pogue family or with relatives of the Pogue family, being my client, since 1992. We believe that that is very strong evidence that when these transfers were originally done, that they were with a bona fide intent. And we believe that even more so with the way these restrictions were added to this lot, that it can be showed that there was no ill will or a bad purpose or a malicious purpose. And that certainly the BLAP was not done to create new commercial lots that would not otherwise be allowed to be created. I would also note that the purpose of the interfamily conveyance restrictions relate to the critical area ordinance, which I know this Planning Commission knows all too well is to protect the environment by not allowing intense development within 1,000 feet of the Chesapeake Bay and its tributary. I would note that if this is granted here tonight, you are not approving any additional development or structures or lot coverage of any kind. There's a single family residence on the property now. There will remain one if Ms. Kozak is allowed to sell it to her buyer. As to the second prong of change in circumstances, we believe that the situation that Ms. Kozak is in, where she received this property from her parents, essentially, her stepfather and her mother, with no role in creating any interfamily. But she now owns it. It would be a significant burden on her through no fault of her own if the Planning Commission did not allow the restriction to be removed. So, Mr. Chairman, I apologize that I'm speaking so slowly. I'm waiting for the echoes to stop in between each word, so I know it's a little disjointed.
You're doing fine.
But that is essentially the information that we wanted to present to you tonight. I'll note that one of the comments from the Critical Area Commission was that Mr. Shire's letter alone was not enough to warrant a change in circumstances. We'd ask that you consider the other reasons that we've given here tonight that Ms. Kozak can confirm on the record as adequate justification to remove this restriction that was originally placed on neighboring properties in 1992. And we're happy to answer any questions. I guess, Kim, before we do that, can you unmute and just state whether any of the factual statements I made were inaccurate or if there's anything else you'd like to add?
It looks like everything was accurate, and I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, we'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Mr. Evans?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, Chris, on with regard to the letter that was sent by the Critical Areas Commission on September 16th, they gave a reason that they needed more information. The information you just provided to the Planning Commission, was this something that you had previously or since then supplied to them? I mean, it seemed like a fairly comprehensive reason, and yet, were they made aware of that information, I guess, is what I'm asking?
We have not sent any of that to them directly. As I read their letter, it directed us to bring additional information before the Planning Commission tonight.
Right. Okay.
In order for you to consider it. And that's what we're attempting to do here tonight.
Right, and that's fine. I got that, but I didn't know whether or not you had provided any of this background information to them previous to that. So the answer is no. Okay.
No,
That's
we
fine.
haven't.
Great, thank you.
Chris, it would have been helpful because we didn't have that reason for the request either in our packets, that you just showed all the breakdown of the life estate. And I mean, could have been in some of the deeds, but we didn't have that bullet sheet that you just provided based upon Ms. Kozak getting the property with the life estate and pay reductions and death of her mother and stepfather. We didn't see that. It may have been a whole lot easier to look at the rest of this had we had that in here. I don't think it was in the packet anyway.
I think some of the primary documents were, but not all of this explanation, sir.
Okay.
Some of this is difficult to kind of put it in writing. We thought it would be more effective to prevent it so that we could explain it with any questions you had.
And you did very well, and we appreciate that explanation, so thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? Joe or BJ, do you all have any questions?
I just thank Mr. Longmore. This is Joe Fazukas. For speaking slowly so that we can understand him, because the echo is even harder to hear on this end.
No clue.
Okay.
Yes. Mr. Pasikas, I couldn't hear you, what you said if you were asking a question of us.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Yes, now.
Okay. I was just thanking you for speaking slowly.
You're very welcome. I thank you as well.
Mr. Hall, do you have any questions? Thank you. Chat works very well, sir. Okay. Anybody else have any questions to the applicant? Okay, at this time, I'll go ahead and open it up to public testimony. You want to give it a call?
Yep.
Okay.
Kathy Garcia, we have no public comment.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, was there anybody on WebEx that had any public comment? All right, I'm not going to play my Jeopardy music tonight in honor of Alex Trebek. So we'll just wait a couple seconds.
Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, I would refer the board to the letter of support that is in the record on WebEx that was submitted before tonight's hearing by Ms. Vance.
Okay.
I saw that.
Yes, we did see that. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and close public testimony, and we'll open it. Chris, was there any last thing you wanted to say? There's no rebuttal because there was no comments.
We're certainly willing to answer any other questions, but I think that covered
Okay.
the information we'd ask you to consider tonight.
Okay. I think the applicant has explained the conditions on which they're asking for this. Very well done, Mr. Longmore, thank you. If anybody doesn't have any,
Questions, I'll make a motion.
I'll accept a motion if anybody has no discussion.
Okay. In the matter of the Kimberly Kozak exception from intra-family conveyance, having accepted the staff report and having made a finding that the objectives of section 41.6.4.3.A and B of the comprehensive zoning ordinance have been met, I move that the exception from intra-family conveyance be approved.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Summers. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll go down roll call. Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Joe Van Kirk?
Aye.
Patty Robrack?
Aye.
Joe Fazekas?
Aye.
Okay, BJ Hall?
Aye.
Kim Summers?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Thank you, Mr. Longmore. And I presume we'll be seeing you next month. Ms. Kozak, good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay. Let's see, we can go right into the second hearing. Public hearing this evening, number 20-245-002. Do we need a moment to get everybody set up for that? Or, I know we have Mr. Hunt. He's ready to go.
Mr. Chairman, this is Chris Longmore. I got cut off for a minute. I thank the commission for your consideration tonight.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, we'll start our second hearing of the evening. Number 20 dash, go ahead and read it all out good. Number 20-245-002 for the Real Food Studio. The owner is Kelly Studio LLC, care of Lisa Kelly. The action they're requesting is to review a request for growth allocation to change the existing resource conservation area, critical area overlay to intensely developed area, critical area overlay. Mr. Hunt, will you be doing the speaking for the applicant this evening? And is there anybody else that will be joining you?
Oh, dear.
Hold on 1 second, Wayne. Hold up, Wayne.
Wayne.
Don't waste those words. Let me get you unmuted.
He is unmuted. I don't know why we can't hear
Are
him.
you muted on your end, Wayne? I don't have any audio for you.
Try switching speakers. Can
There
you?
we-
I heard you then. Okay.
Very good.
Okay. Are you the
Anyways,
only? Are
I'm
you
going
the
to
only
be
one?
turning my speaker down as I speak. Hopefully, I'm going to get rid of that reverb. I will be presenting tonight, but as part of that presentation, the owner also wishes to make a statement.
Who else will be making a statement?
The owner, Lisa Kelly.
Okay. Okay, if everybody that will be speaking this evening or giving any testimony on this case, would you raise your right hand at this time? And Lisa, since I can't see you, I'm trusting you. Do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I did.
Okay. Okay, Brandy, you want to go ahead and...
Yep. Okay. Agenda item 2 is the Real Food Studio growth allocation 20-245-00002. The applicant is requesting growth allocation to change the existing resource conservation area, critical area overlay to intensely developed area, critical area overlay. The site is located at 41566 Medley's Neck Road. The land use is rural commerce. The zoning is rural commercial limited, and the overlay is resource conservation area. The rural commercial limited district accommodates existing small-scale commercial uses serving localized markets in the county that are scattered along the highways and in some cases clustered at intersections, where such existing uses are compatible in scale with the character of the rural area and are devoted to a local market. Their continued operation and opportunity for reasonable expansion is consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan. RCL districts provide for the continuation and limited expansion of such uses. The purpose of the resource conservation area is to conserve, protect, and enhance the overall ecological values of the critical area, its biological productivity, and its diversity. Provide adequate breeding, feeding, and wintering habitats for those wildlife populations that require the Chesapeake Bay, its tributaries, or coastal habitats in order to sustain populations of those species. Conserve the land and water resource base that is necessary to maintain and support land uses such as agriculture, forestry, fisheries activities, and aquaculture, and conserve the existing developed woodlands and forests for the water quality benefits that they provide. The purpose of the intensely developed area is to improve the quality of runoff from developed areas and that enters the Chesapeake Bay or its tributaries, accommodate additional development of the type and intensity designated by the county comprehensive plan, minimize expansion of intensely developed areas into portions of the critical area, conserve and enhance fish, wildlife, and plant habitats to the extent possible, and encourage the use of retrofitting measures to address any existing stormwater management problems, and protect aquifer recharge areas, and in order to reduce the impacts on water quality that are generated by development, the county will make an assessment of the impact to water quality and biological resources as part of the critical area review, implement best management practices, use where appropriate urban forestry programs such as street tree plantings, gardens, landscaping, and open land buffer plantings. Encourage development activities that minimize destruction of forest and woodland vegetation and no net loss of forest. The purpose of the growth allocation process is to establish a method of designating areas within the critical area where the county commissioners may approve a change in the current critical area overlay zone for specific sites or development projects to allow for a denser or more intensive development. The process provides for the designation of new IDAs and LDAs within the critical area, either by the conversion of LDA to IDA or to conversion of RCA to LDA or IDA. No more than a total of 1,686 acres may be converted through the growth allocation process. The county commissioners may award growth allocation resulting from the comprehensive plan recommendations, small area plan recommendations, general or specific requests from the town of Leonardtown, or as the result of consideration of the specific development projects, site plans, subdivisions, or plan unit developments regulated under this ordinance. The county commissioners must approve growth allocation prior to general approval of a specific development project requiring growth allocation on the site, although review may occur simultaneously within the growth allocation application. Okay, per the comprehensive plan, actually, I'll do the I'll do the background first. The subject property has a long-standing history in St. Mary's County. A country store was open for 50 years. It was a tavern and convenience store in the 1990s into the 2000s and closed over a year ago. The property was previously zoned commercial limited. Per the 1980 CZO, the intent of the commercial limited district is primarily to provide those types of commercial services which may satisfy those basic needs which occur daily or frequently and so require commercial facilities in close proximity to residences or which may generally be compatible with a rural or residential area. The use types per the 1990 CZO were convenience stores and shops and restaurants and taverns. The 1990 CZO intent of the commercial limited district is many small-scale commercial uses serving a very localized market are scattered along the highways, some of them clustering at intersections. Most of these small clusters and isolated businesses have a long history of serving the rural community, and their continued existence is of local importance. This ordinance recognizes that the importance and allows their continuation. Where such commercial uses have long existed outside of these areas are in scale compatible with the character of the rural area and are devoted to a local market, their continued operation and opportunity for reasonable expansion is consistent with the principle of the rural preservation element of the comprehensive plan. The established uses had been protected under Article 5, Chapter 52 of the current zoning ordinance regarding nonconforming uses to operate, as long as they operate continuously. Per CZO Section 52.4.1, a nonconforming use that is discontinued for a continuous period of 1 year or more shall not be reestablished, and the use of the structure or site thereafter shall be in conformity with the regulations of the district in which it is located. The previously existing uses and the proposed use are and were permitted by the base zoning. However, the resource conservation area overlay does not permit these uses. Therefore, the growth allocation is needed to change the overlay from RCA to intensely developed area to permit the proposed use. The proposed use is number 78. Takeout food and beverage sales. Use type 78 is permitted in the RCL. Use type 78 is not permitted in the RCA. Use type 78 is permitted in the IDA. Per ordinance 2019-40, when locating new intensely developed or limited development areas, the following standards apply. A new intensely developed area may be less than 20 acres if the site is located in an existing growth area, is zoned commercial marine or rural commercial limited, and the project is for the purpose of establishing or reestablishing a commercial, industrial, or institutional use on a subject property that previously included the same or different commercial, industrial, or institutional use that was in existence as of March 27, 1990. The subject property will at any future that an expansion or repair of an existing septic system is necessary to serve the project, utilize a best available technology on-site sewers disposal system. The subject property will have an overall economic benefit to the community. This property is not located in an existing growth area, and it is zoned rural commercial limited. There were commercial uses in existence on this property in March of 1990. The public notice for the Planning Commission public hearing was published in the Enterprise. Sorry, feel free to let me know when I get behind like that. Hearing published in the Enterprise on December 25th, 2020 and January 1st, 2021. The property has been posted in accordance with CZO requirement section 21.3.3. Certified mail receipts have been received and have been entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit 1. The agenda was posted on the website on January 5th, 2021. The project was reviewed at the TEC meeting held on May 27th, 2020. The only outstanding issue is they still need to obtain health department approval for the minor site plan to establish the proposed use. And this concludes the staff report and is entered into the record of the public hearing as Exhibit 2. Representing the applicant is Wayne Hunt with LSR. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions of staff at this time?
I have a question. I don't quite understand why why they have to make a change. I mean, if this was already, it was a country store,
It will close for more than a year.
Closed for more than a year.
is that the only reason, is because it was closed for a year?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, it's kind of,
Yeah, it's closed for a year, we wouldn't be here.
I'm assuming we wouldn't, if
I don't
that
think we
was one of
would
my
be here.
questions.
We wouldn't, right.
We wouldn't be here if this had not been closed for a year.
We would not be here.
How long was it closed for? The report says like a little over a year or something?
I said a little over a year because I'm not positive how long exactly.
It was closed.
It was a
closed
few
for-
years.
It was closed from,
65 days.
It was longer than a year,
it was longer than a year.
I
Yeah.
probably drank the last.
and that's the important part.
Oh, goodness. That's too
One of the
bad.
first.
Pardon me?
That's too bad for the applicant.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't see this, what you're trying to put it in, it just doesn't make sense to me. What am I missing?
Well, the RCA doesn't allow that use 78 where the IDP or
Honestly, it doesn't allow very many commercial uses at all.
the RCA.
Right.
But if you
Right.
switch it, then it will allow the use under the current zoning.
So the base zoning allows a wide range of commercial uses. The RCA does not.
And since it's always been a store, since the
Yeah.
Yeah.
70s anyway. Yeah.
Right.
Pardon.
Are we anywhere near that limit of acreage that you mentioned?
Oh, no.
I didn't think so.
So I don't know the exact number.
Right, but we're nowhere.
Right.
I remember something come up a few
What I
years
did
ago.
look up, did I write it down? Yep. The last growth allocation and how many acres that was, and that was 1.27 acres, and that was 10-plus years ago.
Historically, St. Mary's has been very stingy with regard to growth allocation. The other two counties have pretty much exhausted, I think, their growth allocation. So, but I mean, in my view, projects like this is a perfect application of growth allocation.
Okay.
I mean, really, it's very, well, what we had 16, we've used very little.
Right, we haven't. So probably the majority of ours would come from maybe the town of Leonardtown.
Right.
So I don't know what they've done, but not 16,000 acres.
No, it seemed, it was
1,600 acres, sorry.
Yeah. It seems to me Leonardtown made application, or was talking about application for some growth allocation, but then that sort of fizzled, went away with regard to, I guess, the development.
Something with Leonardtown was, not that it comes before us, but I remember something a few years ago, somebody had asked them for some, or something for some
Right.
growth allocation, but it wasn't that much, and I'm not sure, since we don't rule on that.
Yeah, I
what
mean-
happened with it, but,
But this is the reason for race allocation.
Yeah.
In my view, it is.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? Mr. Hunt?
Yes, thank you. I do have a brief presentation.
I hope you're not talking, Mr. Hunt.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Okay.
He can sure hear.
So
Here we go.
I'm not sure. Get this into PowerPoint. Of course, it's going to the wrong screen. I'm just going to do it like this real quick. Get it so humble. I'm going to be doing a relative basically land use and growth is doing such a good job. Don't need to do much of a presentation. Once again, the site up is roughly 4,000 square foot. We're asking for the change of use on a 1.4 or 0.395 acre 1.4 acre 1.395 acre 1.4 acre 1.395 acre 1.4 acre 1.395 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 Once again, it's in the overlay district, the RCL zoning district.
Mr. Hunt,
And as was,
hey, Wayne, do us a favor and
Yes.
speak just a little bit slower. I think you're clipping a little bit on our end.
okay, am I getting the same reverberation Chris was?
Probably so.
Okay. I'm going to try also turning off my speaker. The site shown on a county map, just to give you an overall feel for the location, is as shown here on Medley's Neck Road in the 3rd election district. This is also just a blow up or just a blow up of the aerial in case we need it for reference talking. Included also is a copy, the site plan as approved in case we need to reference it for discussion. I'll come back to that. Just for the record, copy of the sign that was posted. Front view of the building. Left side. Rear. And right side. Once again, if needed for reference. Once again, this site, which may be known to many of you as Fat Boys, has existed for a long time, over 50 years. The establishment itself predates the critical area ordinance. And we feel that this may have been a mistake when the first critical area maps were drawn up. This is not the only instance of zoning not matching use in the county that I could find. Another one is the Back Road Inn in Compton. Once again, it has an RCL zone and an RCA overlay zone. So we believe that what we are asking is to correct a past mistake. And using this growth allocation is the means to that end. If Ms. Kelly is ready, I'd like her to go ahead and speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So I started this process in March of 2019. And while I was told by several people it could take up to 18 months, I certainly thought we could get it done sooner. Clearly, I had no idea of all the work that needed to go into both the text amendment and the growth allocation application. I'm grateful to everyone who patiently held my hand through this excruciatingly long process. My intention is to take a decaying property that once was allowed to operate as a business and revitalize it. This evening, I'm asking the Planning Commission to approve my growth allocation application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. I am sorry for such a short presentation. This media and the way it's working tonight is kind of blowing my concentration.
Yeah.
So at this point, if you don't mind, I would just like to open up questions.
Okay.
Wayne, I have a question. In the package that we received, Heather from the Health Department had several questions in regards to, I think she was confused or is asking to verify the purpose of the property. I mean, what are you going to use it for? And she's also, well, basically, that's really what she's asking is, what exactly is it going to be used for? My question to you is, have you gone back and responded to her in regards to her questions?
Thank you for that remark. That was part of the presentation
Did I miss
that I
it?
glossed over.
Oh,
Well, no, I didn't make the presentation.
I thought I
Sorry.
was listening to you.
What you have in your packet is the TEC comments. We have addressed those, and they sent back one in November. We addressed that comment, sent it back in for review, and the plan that you are looking at addresses that last comment. The last comment we received was to rework General Number 7, or Health Department Number 7, so that the numbers worked to your satisfaction. And the note is exactly.
I don't see it. I don't see it, but I mean, your presentation was clear. You know, when you first started, you gave the breakdown. But I don't see any response to the tech.
If I may share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, I believe I'm sharing my, this is my PDF browser. St. Mary's County Health Department. Date received 11/12. And that's the last note. It was, you can see right there, it was all, but they had a last.
I see, yeah, okay.
And that's what we did.
Much higher sewage design flow.
And you don't have that because I
I
don't
was going to say, I don't have it.
Because I don't have that.
Yeah.
But as a cover for us, I would think whoever, if a motion is made to approve, since it's still an outstanding issue in our packet, that unless I don't see where that says approved by the health department. I would think we would need to make a condition of must obtain health department approval.
I do too.
I mean,
And that's why I asked the question, because when I went through the packet, that was still
I think
outstanding.
that would cover
Right.
us and
Right.
and the applicant.
Right,
Because they're not
exactly.
going to be able to do anything anyway, but just technically for us, it should be, I would think, in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
agree, yeah.
Are there any other questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I have one quick one. Oh, when Ms. Kelly, how long had this place been closed when you started your process in 2019? Was it 2019? Was it 2019?
I believe the bar closed in 2013.
Wow, okay.
God, Tom,
I was trying to help.
that's a bad.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Golly,
Time does fly.
time does fly.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
Mr. Hall, Mr. Fazekas, y'all have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, not hearing any more questions to the applicant, this time I'll open it up to public testimony. Brandy, you want to see if there's anybody that's called in?
May I jump in? This is Lisa Kelly.
I'm sorry, Kathy, can you say that one more time?
This is Kathy Garcia. We have
Sorry, may I make a comment?
Hold on.
Thank you, Kathy. Bye.
Ms. Kelly, if you could hold on 1 second.
We have nobody for the public.
Okay. No public testimony?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and close public testimony at this time. Is there anybody on WebEx that's part of the public process? And hearing none, I'll go ahead and close public testimony. And Mr. Hunt, you heard one of our main concerns was with the health department, making sure that everything has come through for that.
Absolutely. I wish I could have had an approval for you here tonight. Health department review has been slow during COVID.
Okay. Well, if we were to okay it, approve it, we could add that as a condition to the approval. If there's no more discussion, is there any other discussion from the board members? Would anybody like to make a motion?
Joe?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion in the matter of growth allocation plan number 20-245-00002, the real food growth allocation, having accepted the staff report and having made a finding that the objectives of section 41.4 and 41.9 of the comprehensive zoning ordinance have been met, and noting that the reference project has met all requirements for growth allocation approval, I move that the growth allocation request be approved with the following condition, and that would be that they must obtain health department approval.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Ms. Roebuck. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Mr. Evans?
Yay.
Joe Van Kirk?
Yay.
Patty Roebuck?
Yay.
Joe Fazekas?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Kim Summers?
Aye.
Okay, and I vote aye. Good luck, Miss Kelly. Mr. Hunt, thank you for your patience this evening. And
Thank you.
good luck with your project, sir.
Chairman, let me ask a quick question just to make sure we're all legal. I did not finish that reading of that sample motion. It says, and I would be happy to amend my motion. I just put, I move the growth allocation be approved with the following conditions. I think I should have said, I move the growth allocation request be recommended to be approved by the Commissioner of St. Mary's County.
Okay, I have a amendment to the motion,
And I second that.
and I have a second from Ms. Robrecht. Instead of going down, all in favor of that minor adjustment to the motion, would you please say aye?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. It's all approved. Okay. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other business this evening for the board? Mr. Hunt, do we have anything coming up? Has to do with the comp plan, anything new? Put you right on the spot at the end of the night. You were that close.
The outline for proceeding on the comprehensive plan will be coming back, I believe, later this month, as we can get it scheduled at any rate. Another thing that'll be coming, since you brought me up here, that is somewhat interesting. However, there's nothing you can do with it, and that is the amendment to the the official zoning maps of St. Mary's County for the change in the critical area boundary that was done based on a requirement of the State Assembly back, if I've got this right, 2008, I believe. That's not really important. Annapolis passed a law that said the critical area boundary had to be revised using modern techniques as opposed to trace paper that was done back in the 70s. So there will be a whole set of maps that'll be coming to you, along with an ordinance that County Attorney Mr. Weiskopf has written, which will be asking you to accept the 1,000-foot boundary as revised through this process that was required by Annapolis, and recommend that the Commissioners of St. Mary's County adopt the same maps. You don't have the authority to change them. The Commissioners of St. Mary's County don't have the authority to change them. Nevertheless, they have to come to you for a recommendation to the Commissioners of St. Mary's County, and the Commissioners of St. Mary's County have to adopt them. And I think those are on for the 25th.
Yes, sir.
So you'll see a lot of pages of maps and a very short ordinance. I'll present a PowerPoint that explains what I've just told you, just in case, for transparency and for people who may have an interest. But there's nothing that can be done with them other than, I'm not even sure you could say no, but you certainly can't change them.
Okay.
So are these, the maps, Bill, are they a recalculation of the buffer?
It won't affect the buffer, it's the 1,000-foot.
Well, what I'm getting to is that, back when they were drawn, it was X. Whether or not these maps are drawn to the current shorelines, for example, if they've receded, that 1,000 feet will drift.
I'm not sure when the basic data were collected for the maps that you'll be seeing.
Right.
But it was more recently than was done earlier, obviously. And so it would reflect the shoreline at the time these maps were done, or the data for these maps was collected.
Right. So which could mean that some folks, when they have surveys, that once this comes to fruition, those surveys will likely have to be amended.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just for the sake of reaching out to the public. I mean, 1,000 feet is 1,000 feet one day, And there's a line delineated, but after they're recalculated, that 1,000 feet is now wherever else it might be.
Correct. It would be wherever else it might be.
That's what I mean.
However, the state says this is where it is now.
They just wave a stick. Nobody comes down here and look.
Oh, I don't know about that part. but
Well, I mean, they just,
Mr. Hunt, didn't we talk about this a couple years ago?
Yes, it's been almost 2 years.
In here, so it's the same thing.
It's the same
It's
thing.
just now coming to fruition, I guess.
Correct. Well,
They-
it could have come sooner. I just didn't get it before you sooner.
Right, and they've sent letters to,
All the
Prop-
property owners who had a 1% change, either plus or minus,
right.
or greater.
some years ago, they sent out letters for floodplain, changing floodplains. We got letters and then had to get a survey to prove that we were not in the floodplain.
Right.
Someone in Baltimore decided that the floodplain had changed. May well have been, but it cost all of us $700 apiece to prove that we weren't in the floodplain. So that's what I was getting at about waving sticks.
Because these adjusted lines will make a big difference on
Yeah.
people who were 50 feet outside of it or 20 feet outside of it.
Exactly.
And now they're
Could now fall within the critical
in
area.
as far as construction.
I
and
can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Just can't wait.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other business this evening?
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Mr. Hall, good luck this evening. I know it's a big one for you. Okay. Football game.
Oh, the football
Okay.
game.
At this time, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Summers. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.
Aye.